welcome to Lovecars. And if you've seen one of our videos before, you know that we'll typically start off with some beautiful, sexy static shots of cars, maybe some headline performance figures. I might even crank up the volume to try and get your attention that way. But today, as the internet is awash with M4 and M3 videos, we thought we'd start off with a slightly different attention seeker, starting with this. If you want to light things up a little bit, 510 horsepower under your right foot, and it does help if you've got access to Thruxton, which is the fastest race circuit in the UK. Or sadly in this situation, we've actually got access to Thruxton's car park, but perhaps it's the fastest car park in the UK. So if you want to be, you can be an absolute hooligan in this, but let's face it, 99% of the people that drive this car are going to do it on the road. So without further ado, let's go. You can actually pay to be driven around Thruxton by Tiff in an M4. He power slides around every corner, 90, 100 miles an hour. He does it so effortlessly. Every time I do it, even in a big car park, I'm trying to concentrate and think about what I'm doing. It's like patting your head and rubbing your tummy at the same time and talking. He does it as if it's nothing, but I definitely recommend it. I'll put the link here somewhere in this video as well, because if you haven't done it, it's brilliant for about 150 quid. A really good, fun thing to do. BMW wanted this new iteration of M4 and indeed M3 to really stand out. They wanted it to be bold and to make a statement. Go big or go home. And talking of big, let's get out of the way early. The price tag, 76,000 quid, about £1,000 or so less if you get the M3. And that puts it in the same bracket as the Mercedes C63 AMG and a nicely spec'd Audi RS4 Avant. And for your £76,000, you get a beautifully built car that feels like quality. And it's a car that's been honing its skills ever since the first M3 came out, the E30, 35 years ago. So you've also got some pedigree and some history as well. Inside the car is lovely. All the touch points and all the stitching and the finish on all the buttons feel really good quality. These carbon fiber seats, they're M-bucket seats. And usually when you get carbon fiber seats in a car, there's no or very little movement in the seats, but these are fully electric. You go up, down, you've even got support to bring these side bits in a bit more if you want to as well. And they're comfortable, which makes a real change. And if you're really into it, they're 5 kilograms per seat lighter than the standard car. So if you choose these as an option, you're going to save 10 kilograms overall on your weight as well. I'll tell you something, you'll never ever notice it. No sunroof on the M4 and same on the M3 because it's got a carbon fiber roof, which is a lovely little option. And this actual car's got carbon fiber pack as well. So you've got carbon fiber wing mirrors, carbon fiber rear spoiler, diffuser, and other bits and pieces. Quite a classy spec, I think, on this. I think a very grown-up spec, and I feel this whole car seems to be quite grown-up as well, actually. It's supposed to be bold and extroverted, but for me it feels quite a grown-up car. And also you've got this Hofmeister kink, which is quite synonymous now with BMW. I thought Hofmeister was a lager from the 80s. And as you'd imagine for any car this class, it's absolutely ram-packed full of technology. You've got a smartphone app now where you can use your smartphone as your key and do other things on the app. You've got gesture control, which I thought was a bit of a gimmick, but you know what? It's actually quite good. It's beeping away to me now. It's actually quite good. It's quite hard to get the volume exactly right, but it's good if you want to turn it off or just turn your radio off very quickly. And you've also got voice command, which again, voice command's been around for a long time, but I feel that BMW have got this down to a bit of a T, and it seems like it's got a bit of a personality as well, a bit of humor. For example, if I say my passenger's cold, it'll put the heated seat on for the passenger. But this one, we did this in a 1 Series before, but I still can't believe the height of laziness. Hey BMW.
Good morning. What can I help you with?
Lower my driver's side window.
I will open the driver's window.
What's all that about? As if you can't lean over 6-7 inches, but you get my point. It's a very good voice command. Loads of other bits and bobs as well. You got lane assist, Harman Kardon stereo is standard, and you got head-up display is standard as well. And you got these 2 whopping great big screens in front of you. You've got this 10.25 inch high definition infotainment screen, and then you got the instrument cluster behind here, which is another high definition 12.3 inches screen, but it's got everything on there. Really, really good. Looks very modern. Of course, you got Android and Apple CarPlay as well. And then it's all kind of led from this steering wheel, which is beautifully finished, but it's too chunky. Definitely too chunky steering wheel, and it's led by these 2 M configuration buttons right in front of you. You can customize the M1 and M2 buttons to suit your different driving styles. New features include an M traction mode with 10 different drift settings. You can even analyze your slides to see how good they are. That sounds like a TIFF challenge for a future video. In terms of the drivetrain, both models are rear-wheel drive, but an X-Drive option will be available later in the year, much like the M5 and the M8 competition. The cars use an 8-speed M-Steptronic transmission with drive logic, which of course is fully automatic. Plus, you have the option of manual shifts with the sequential gear selector or the rather nice carbon paddles. And when it comes to these paddles, when you hold them down, they have a neat little trick up their sleeve. It's actually quite clever. I never thought you'd use it on the road, but on a track you would use it often, but let's face it, hardly anyone's going to take their M3 or M4 on a track. But on a track, if you're going into a corner, you brake as hard as you possibly can at the last minute, as we all know, and then you're looking for that gear. You're kind of looking for the gear and sending some Morse code going down on the paddle shifters. But there's a really clever new function where you just hold it down. I've used it a few times now. Hold it down like this. You'll choose the optimum gear for maximum acceleration, and then away you go. And you know what? The exhaust sounds quite good as well. I feel so sorry for manufacturers these days because of different homologation rules and legislations. We'll never get those engine notes as they were in the past, but it doesn't sound too bad. It's got some variable valves in there to, depending what mode you're in, it will change it accordingly to that. Doesn't sound too bad at all. It's quite a firm ride on these bumpy little British B roads, but I think that's the beauty of this car. You can configure it however you like, so you can have it harder or softer, and same with the steering, same with the brake as well. For example, for me, I jumped in and played around with the settings a little bit, but when you got the car for one day, you try and make it the optimum setting for you. But of course, if you live with the car every day, you would get that perfectly right. 0-62 for both the M3 and the M4, 3.9 seconds. Top speed limited on both cars to 155 miles an hour, or if you get the M drivers package, you can have a top speed of about 180 miles an hour. 510 horsepower, 650 newton meters torque, which is up 60 horsepower and 100 newton meters of torque over the outgoing M3 and M4. BMW have introduced 4 brand new exterior colours: Sampello Yellow, Skyscraper Grey, Isle of Man Green and Brooklyn Grey. We, however, have none of the above. Our car is Tanzanite Blue. There are more options now with the wheels, with different designs and finishes, including some lighter weight track focused wheels, but all of which have 19-inch on the front and 20-inch on the rear. And there's some new brake caliper colours too, with black and red. Previously there was just blue and carbon ceramic gold. But if you fancy something a little bit more practical, a couple of doors at the back for the family, how about the M3? But before we get going, here's a quick history lesson. Pay attention at the back. The M3 has been produced for every generation of 3 Series since the E30 and started life in 1986 as an M3 coupe. A convertible came soon after. The E36 followed between 1994 and 1999, which was the first time a 4-door M3 was available. The E46 came after that between 2000 and 2006, but reverted back to a coupe and a convertible option only. Then between 2008 and 2012, along came the E90, E92 and E93, and again the 4-door option. Then in 2014, the M3 F80 generation was only made as a 4-door sedan, and the coupe and convertible were rebranded as the M4. So this is the 6th generation M3 and the 4th generation to be available in a 4-door. And here's a contentious point. Why isn't the M3 the 2-door and the M4 a 4-door? Because the M3 started off life as a 2-door and a convertible. So anyway, that's food for thought. So the M3 and the M4 have identical performance figures. In fact, the underpinnings are the same as well. I can't even tell them apart looking from the front. As soon as you move down the side of the car, you've got the beautiful coupe lines for the M4, the extra set of doors for the M3. At the back of the car, different boot, different lights. And both cars are longer and wider than their predecessors, and much of that is in the wheelbase. So if you've got passengers in the back, it gives them a bit of extra valuable leg room. And of course, with the M3, you have more headroom than the M4 because you haven't got the coupe roof. And if you look out the wing mirrors, these very funky looking wing mirrors, you can see a bit of a bulge on the wheel arch, which is for the extra track. They look good as well. I quite like the fact that both cars can be just so subtle and so discreet, and yet if you crank up the volume a little bit, can turn into a bit of a beast, and you can just throw it around corners and be a real yobbo, a real hooligan. And finally, I don't think we could do this whole review without mentioning the grills at the front, but you know what? I think it's evolution. I don't think they're bad at all. People are jumping on the bandwagon saying they look hideous, but I don't think it's a bad thing, personally. Let us know what you think in the comments below.